Welcome back, everybody, for my portfolio update for August 2024. And if you remember, during the first week of August, I said this. And over the first couple of days in August, my portfolio battleship is taking on some water, along with the broader market. Well, I'm happy to report that that was pretty temporary, and the market came roaring back to where my portfolio actually closed the month above 300K for the first time ever. Now, the market in August was up a little over 3% and ended August above 18% for the year. And we've really talked about most of the things that I've done in my account recently already, like why and how I sold Caterpillar in August, why I'm holding both Nvidia and Lulu after the most recent earnings, and I talked about how I added Cloudflare. So not that much drama this month if you've been watching my more recent videos, but let's see how I actually did. And yes, that is me wearing an Amazon shirt that I bought specifically to wear in a video. I actually thought Amazon was going to end up being my top holding at the end of this month, and then Nvidia did what Nvidia does, and well, here we are. Now, this video is actually as of September 1st, and my account is currently at $302,090.74. And in the last 1 month, my portfolio balance is up over 4%. So if we take a look at the actual breakdown and we adjust this to see how we did for August only, we see my beginning value was $294,969 and some change. And now you might notice I only made $50 in contributions this month, which is less than my normal contribution, and that's because I added my August contribution early at the end of July, and that's why last month was a little bit higher, and it's just a timing thing. But this little $50 is significant too, because this was a test contribution to my business 401k account, since Schwab now allows electronic deposits into their individual 401ks, which was one of the pain points I had with them, but more on that at the end. Now, in terms of my overall investment change, it was $7,301.71, which was mostly investment gains of $7,103.13 and $198.58 in dividends and account interest. So while August started with a lot of red, it really rebounded strongly to be a pretty respectable 1-month return. But let's see how I did against the S&P 500. So as you can see for the month, the S&P 500 was up 2.43%, accounting for the timing of my contributions, and my portfolio was up 2.48%. So we outpaced the S&P 500 for the month by about 5 basis points. Now, if we take a quick look at year-to-date performance, for 2024, the S&P 500 is up 19.53%, and my portfolio was up 15.96%. So we're trailing the index by just over 3.5 percentage points for the year. And just for consistency, let's take a look at the performance of my portfolio since I started it on December 8th, 2022. And if we remove the annualized returns, we see that my portfolio was up 35.59% compared to the S&P 500's 47.49%. So since inception, I'm trailing the S&P 500 by just under 12 percentage points in total return. Now, if we take a look at my investment income, specifically for the next 12 months, we see that my annual dividends and interest are up to $1,981.28 compared to the $1,955.08 that I had in July, which is an increase of $26.20 from last month. But that's a bit misleading because that number is going to eventually go down since I sold Caterpillar in August and I have a little bit of cash in SGov, which is a treasury ETF paying over 5% a year. So that number is a little bit inflated and it's going to go down whenever I actually use the cash. Now, in terms of overall dividend yield for my portfolio, it's currently sitting at about 0.67%. But there's something cool that I'm going to show you guys a little bit later in the video about how I'm monitoring overall reward to shareholders for my portfolio. But first, let's take a look at what dividends actually hit my account. On August 9th, I got $70 from American Express in 4 different accounts. On August 15th, I got $39 from Apple in 3 different accounts. On August 20th, I got $54.99 from Caterpillar in 2 different accounts. Then on August 30th, I got $33.60 from MSCI in 2 different accounts. So in total, I had $197.59 in dividend income for the month of August. Okay, so now let's take a look at what I actually bought and sold for the month. And just to recap, there's a few transactions here that we actually already talked about last month in my portfolio video because it was a couple days into August and they happened right there at the beginning of the month, but I'll just review them because they technically did happen in August, but you've already seen these before. On August 1st, I bought 35 shares of Meta at $498.55 a share. And I also bought 12 shares of Lululemon at $248.40 a share. On August 2nd, I bought 26 shares of Amazon at $169.20 a share. And then also on August 2nd, I trimmed my McDonald's holding by 25 shares at $274.31 a share. And so again, those were the ones that we already talked about and the reasons why last month, but now on to the rest. On August 6th, I bought 29 shares of Amazon at $160.65 a share. On August 12th, I sold 39 shares of Caterpillar at $338.12 a share. And then on August 29th, I bought 124 shares of Cloudflare at $81.79 a share. So again, pretty much all moves that we already talked about, other than I'm not sure if we talked about me adding more into Amazon at the beginning of August, but it was nice to grab some around $160 when the market decided to give us a discount for those couple days. And just real quick, if you want the details around the Caterpillar sell, the 39 shares was my total portfolio, and my original cost basis was $247.30 a share, so it ended up being a 36.7% gain, not including any dividends that I received, which were probably about another 1% or so. So with that in mind, let's take a look at my updated portfolio allocation and weightings. And I'm actually going to use FinChat for this going forward because, as you guys know, the Schwab page that shows this, it's just not really my favorite. It's hard to see. And with FinChat, I get to do a lot more cool things. It's something that I've been using in the background, and you're going to see a lot more of it on my channel. Now, the one thing that it doesn't actually incorporate in FinChat, though, is the cash that I have in my account, which is about $5,000 that I have in the Treasury ETF SGov right now. So the percentages will be off by a few basis points, but no big deal. So Nvidia is still number one at over 16%. Amazon is still second at over 15%. Apple is third at over 12%. Visa is next at around 11.5%. And McDonald's is at 9.7%, as well as Meta at 9.6%. And those six companies make up almost 75% of my portfolio, 73.3% technically. That's pretty crazy. And just remember, I don't have a diversification goal with this portfolio, so it doesn't bother me. Amex is next at just under 9%. Google is just under 6%. MSCI is over 4%. Lululemon is just under 4%. And then new addition Cloudflare is at just under 3.5%. Now, if we take a look at which holdings have performed the best overall, and remember, this is just price return since I take my dividends in cash to reinvest manually. Now, American Express is still in the top spot at just under 70% gain, and this has just been an amazing performer. The crazy part is that their charge-off and delinquency fundamentals actually look better now than they did a few months back. So to me, it looks like their loan portfolio is even stronger than it was before. Nvidia is next at over 38%. Apple is now up just under 23%. Google, even though it's been coming down lately, is up over 14%. Visa's at 12.78%. Amazon's at about 9.5%. And being able to add to my position at $160 has really helped that. Meta's up 8.29%, even after adding a bunch at the end of last month, around $500 a share. MSCI has been very good, coming all the way back over the past 2 months from being down double digits to now up almost 8%. McDonald's continues to bounce back as well, now up 5.1%. And next, the new addition Cloudflare, which is just barely up as I just added it a couple days ago. And then lastly, my lone negative holding is Lululemon, and it's down just under 20%, but it's come up a bit over the past month or so, believe it or not. So we'll see what it does going forward. Now, if we take a look at just the last month, you can see I had 9 positive holdings for the month with just 2 negative ones. Cloudflare was up over 10%, but most of that happened before I bought it. Nvidia was up over 9%, McDonald's up over 7%, MSCI up almost 6%, Apple and Meta both up almost 5%. Lululemon was up over 4%, American Express up over 4%, and Visa was up just under 4%, which means that 9 out of my 11 holdings actually outpaced the S&P 500 for the month, which is pretty great. But then I have 2 that actually trailed the market quite considerably. Amazon was down over 3% this month, and Google was down over 4%. So overall, this was a really good month where the vast majority of my companies had really strong showings. So even though I only still have one of them left in my portfolio, let's take a look at my top 4 for 2024 stocks. Now, as we can see, only one of the companies is still outperforming the index, and that's Caterpillar. But again, that's also the one that I just sold in August. Now, the rest are still pretty comfortably behind the index year to date, and I'm not going to do the Hershey comparison thing of when I sold in February like I've been doing each month. It's just, at this point, it's not really relevant anymore. Alright, so let's take a look ahead to next month and what holdings I think I'm going to be adding to going forward. Now, in terms of ones I'd like a higher allocation to, really there's not much that stands out here to me. I'll probably add to my Cloudflare position over time and also maybe Meta, but again, I'm good with the weights how they are today. Now, in terms of ones I think are the best value right now, I'd probably say Amazon, Lululemon, and Meta, although pretty much everything looks a little less attractive than it did a few weeks ago as the market has come up a bit. But in terms of what I expect to be doing over the next month or so, it's probably not going to be much other than looking for good prices on existing holdings. I will be bringing back some of the stock analysis deep dives that I used to do a lot of, so prepare for that on the channel. And if you're in places like Twitter or X and Threads, you'll probably be seeing more of me over there as well, in case you don't always want to have to watch a 15-minute video. Now, I did want to talk briefly about Fidelity versus Schwab because you guys know that I've been kind of looking around at those and I had some pain points about Schwab and I thought maybe Fidelity could be an answer for that. But for now, I've decided to just kind of wait it out a little bit and stick with Schwab, and let me explain why. And the biggest reason is simply that the portfolio performance tools and history is something that's just too important to me. And at Schwab, they do that really well. Now they have electronic deposits for small business 401k contributions, and that removes one of my pain points. Plus, I'm starting to use FinChat more as it relates to looking at the fundamentals of my portfolio, and that makes it not specific to Fidelity or Schwab. And like I said last month, I really want to love Fidelity. They have a lot of great features that I really like. I thought their mobile app was better, but at the end of the day, the portfolio performance tools is such a critical aspect of why I moved my accounts to Schwab. And so not being able to have that at least the same of what I'm getting today or better is just a non-starter for me. So for now, at least, I'll be sticking around with Schwab, and maybe those other pain points I had will get better. We'll just have to wait and see. But one of the really cool things I've been using with FinChat is their portfolio stats, which lets you see the fundamentals of your portfolio in aggregate, which I really love, since it makes it easier to see if your portfolio is following the actual criteria that you've set in your strategy. Like for example, like we do each month, let's review my portfolio goal and strategy. My goal is to beat the S&P 500 in total return while creating a growing passive income stream for my family. Now, my strategy to achieve it is I want to attach myself to companies with wide moats that are generating increasing cash flow and rewarding shareholders with dividend growth that outpaces inflation, or share buybacks that increase their ownership stake in the business. And if I take a look at my portfolio stats on FinChat, I think it actually tells that story. Now, obviously, it's hard to show something like wide moats here, so that's not going to be there. But in terms of generating increasing cash flows, you can see that at a portfolio level, the 3-year revenue growth rate is over 20%, and free cash flow growth is over 30%. And you can see that gross profit and free cash flow margins are actually pretty healthy as well on a portfolio level. Again, because that should lead to more predictability as it relates to free cash flow generation. And then if we go to the next part of my strategy, it's about rewarding shareholders. Now, I specifically call out dividends and buybacks here, but with these stats, I can see a little bit more. I have return on invested capital over 37% at a portfolio level. My dividend yield here is small at 0.57%, again, because it doesn't account for the cash that I have in my portfolio that's currently invested in 5% a year treasuries. But my 3-year dividend growth rate for those companies that do pay dividends is over 12%. And then there's shareholder yield, which I really love this because I was talking about buyback yield a while back, and this just takes that idea even further. Because shareholder yield is a measure to show the overall way a company is rewarding shareholders, which includes dividends, share buybacks, as well as debt reduction. So it's a really nice way to see a more rounded picture of how a company and management team can reward shareholders. And currently for my portfolio, that's at 2.29%. So pretty cool stuff, and obviously something I'm going to continue to incorporate into my videos, so expect to see more of it. Now, if I recap what happened this month, portfolio was up just under 2.5% and outpaced the S&P 500 by a handful of basis points. Annual dividends increased a bit, but that was a little misleading due to me holding some cash in treasuries. Only one of my top 4 picks for 2024 is still outpacing the market, and the others are still trailing behind. But overall, this was a really good month, especially when you look at the number of companies in my portfolio that performed well. And I think this month was a really good lesson in really understanding why you invested in something and the criteria that actually matter to you. Because it would have been easy to panic in early August with the way that the market was for those few days. But if you did, then you missed out on the big bounce back. And I know it probably sounds repetitive because I say it all the time, but really being confident in knowing why you bought something and the things that you're monitoring on a stock makes it easy to just ignore kind of these irrational price actions and things that happen and actually be able to take advantage of crazy dips when they do, just because you're not worried about what the market thinks. And at least for me, I was able to do that with Amazon this month, grabbing a little bit on the dip before it bounced back up again. And it wasn't even a question to me if I was going to buy or not, because I I feel like I have a really good understanding of their business and why I like it as an investment. So it doesn't matter what the market's doing on any given day. So how did you all end up for the month? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, if you missed my video on why I sold Caterpillar in August, you can watch it by clicking this right here. Hope you guys have a great day out there. Financial independence is true freedom, so keep building and stacking wins, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.